Hello, Dwight Norris of Fishing at Work, and today we're going to talk about the best bait for bass. Now, you probably have some particular baits that you like to fish with at your current location and you believe are the best baits for bass in your area. Well, the general consensus is really around two different things. So there really isn't a best. Actually, I'll label one the best because it's my preference, but you may have another preference. Now, these two things which are the best baits for bass are, one, your good old plastic worm. It's been around forever, it's worked forever, it works when it's alive, it works when it's not alive, and it works when it's fake. The fish have adequate amounts of it. It's always available. They know exactly what it is, and they know to bite it. Freshwater and saltwater. Now the other thing is just as prominent, and that is a minnow type lure, just like this Rapala Countdown 5. There's various types that you can get. They all work very well and try to mimic the local forage in your area. Now there are different types of forage, herring, shads, all different types of minnows in certain areas. Now your lake may have a different forage than a lake that's a couple miles away, depending on how it was stocked. Your river may have different types of forage that come in at different times during the year, and you might want to mix up your minnow baits to mimic those. So a little bit of research can go a long way if you time your fishing correctly. I personally don't have very many right now. I'm still learning about this local area here at the Charles River, and a variety of herring come through. There's a blueback, I think there's a greenback, there's some kind of a shad that comes in. I think there's like 5 or 6, and they all come in from the sea. They're all sea-based bait forage. There's also crayfish that go primarily down a side river here called the Mystic River, which kind of splits off as soon as it goes through the gate from the Atlantic Ocean right here at the Boston Harbor. And the crayfish go one way and the minnows go both ways because they're everywhere. But I haven't gone to the other section where this crayfish like to hatch and they're around, because they used to be in my area in Southern Virginia where I used to live, and I could just walk in the creek and pick them up. And obviously the fish like to do the same thing. Delicious. But they also have to fight those when they have their spawning, and the crayfish and the breams and pretty much anything small will try to eat the bass's eggs, and they are very ferocious. The male is very ferocious when it's protecting. So why are these two different types of lures the best baits for bass? Primarily with the worm. This is a classic bait. There's a reason it's lasted forever. The fish know what a worm is. They know it's very nutritious, it's abundant, it's easy to eat, it's not going to run away super fast, it's going to bounce on the bottom, and it's good from the time that they're young, when they're young and impressionable, just like we are, and all the way to they're old. They're short. They can get super long. We have those big, extra long, or like magnum worms. I don't know why they use that word. Up to like 10-inch worms. Because, if you study bass long enough, you'll realize that, one, right after the female gives birth, and she gets lethargic for about 2 weeks, she comes back and she's hungry. And she may or may not become cannibalistic. She'll just eat anything there. It doesn't really matter. It could be a worm, it could be a minnow, it could be her own young. It stinks. But that's the reason why the largemouth bass and really smallmouth bass are a mainstay for fishermen, because they just eat everything, and they need to eat. And that means they're easier for you to catch. Other than like things like trout or muskies and northern pike. They like to eat too, but not as much as the bass. Matter of fact, largemouth bass have been found with several muskies in their mouth, as long as they're under a foot. But that takes a monster bass. The bass will eat pretty much anything that's 30% of its size, but it will try up to half, and it may or may not live by doing that. I found a fish. I found a largemouth bass with what looked like a bream that was half its size. I'm talking like a 3-pound bass with over a pound bream or sunfish or bluegill in its mouth. I couldn't tell. It was almost all the way in. I'm like, why are you eating my 8-inch worm when you're stuffed? When I'm hungry, they're hungry. So that's one of the reasons why why a worm is so good. There are many different types. There's this zoom trick worm, which is mostly used unweighted, so it can float down and kind of mimic a worm falling. It's very flexible and very, but not juicy. It doesn't use any scent like the Berkeley power bait does, but that's another way to entice them if they're skeptical about the worm. And the various colors are important too. I have another video, hopefully I'll put it up here, about worm colors, and I talk about the brown, the green, and the black as the most useful plastic worms to use. Why? Because those are generally the colors you're going to see, or they're going to see in their environment, except when it's dark. Like I talked in my last video about the best time to fish for bass is at nighttime, which is obviously not right now. Yeah, I can't make videos in the dark without a headlamp and stuff, but maybe in the future. Actually, I will do that in the future, but not in the near future. It's on my list. So, on to the minnow. Why is a minnow lure really good? Well, one, we always say to match the hatch when you're trying to fish, because obviously fish are going to eat what they eat every day. If you can trick them into thinking that your lure is what they're going to eat, is what they eat every day, then it'll be easier to get the bite. Now, if you try to throw a purple and yellow mega crawdad thing that looks like a lobster, and you know, there are some times where they'll just eat it because they see it's smaller than them, but most of the time they're looking for something that they normally eat. So, like I said earlier, you want to know what the forage is in your area. Maybe a minnow, maybe a shad, maybe a herring. Find out what it is, find out what it looks like, and then find a reputable company like Rapula that has a nice matching of the hatch and the size as well. And the size may actually be a preference on you. You can get small ones, and you know, everything starts small, but maybe in your area you have really large bass and they are hungry and they go for the biggest, slowest thing they can find because they don't want to waste energy. So you might go for a 6 or maybe even larger. I'm not even sure they make them larger. Maybe the one with the 3 treble hooks, floating or sinking or a suspended one, and find out where they are, find the drop-offs, find a concentration of bass of these particular types, and put it in front of them. Try it out. And you may find out that they will eat things much larger than you imagined. Much larger. And that will increase your chances of catching bigger bass and bigger fish. So, another reason this is the best bait for bass is because, honestly, they're surrounded by this. And they get a little jealous when there's a lot of bass around, and they see something that they know is delicious. They might not even expect it. And when you're using a minnow like this, it's usually going a little faster than a worm, so you don't get much time to really think about it. They have to use their senses that they can use at that particular point in time. They can hear it if it has rattles. They can see the flash, that it's yellow on the bottom, black on the top, trying to disappear. When fish look at the bottom of a minnow, it's silver in the bottom, so therefore it looks like the light. So it makes them kind of invisible, but when it moves, it flashes, and they say, hey, that's something smaller than me up there, and it's probably a minnow, and it's probably delicious. So I'm not going to sniff it, I'm not going to taste it, we're just going to go engulf it, and that's a fish for you, buddy. So these are just some of the great reasons why worms and minnows, minnow type lures, are the best bait for bass. If you want to find out more, I'll be creating a blog post on the website fishingnetwork.com on this topic, and I'll go into much more detail about why, how, when with this particular topic. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. At the end of this video or just down below, you can hit the subscribe button and be updated when I make videos, which I'll be trying to do almost daily on topics like this. And also go to the website. You will see at the beginning there is an email list that you can join. It might not look like an email list because it's actually me providing a free product to you called the 10-step process to go fishing at work. Now, if you have a problem with fishing more in your life and you don't know how to, I have a process, a plan written out in a very short PDF with excellent information about how you can go from not fishing that much to fishing a lot and being out here like I am now on a work day in the middle of the day when everybody else is at the office thinking about work or actually working or sitting there eating their food and working, because when you're at your desk you're technically working in your brain. You can't get out of yourself if you don't leave the office. That's why people who work from home actually go to work at those little remote stations, because they get so out of it they realize, I like that social connection. But if you don't, that's fine. I also will be creating another document very soon once I get a little more information, and I'm gonna make a high quality product about how you can catch more bass. And there are a variety of ways of doing that, techniques and time. So remember, you can fish whenever you want, and the best baits of bass are worms and minnow type lures. Check you guys later.